up in Chennai, teaching at IIT Madras in 1997. Nice nicknames to carry. We're all a bunch of nerds, and carrying a fan and running along the corridor. We'll make larger and larger rockets, bigger and bigger planes, more than what's going on. So you have to pick up what fancies your heart. It's possible to follow your heart in multiple ways. So I used to be a branch topper. I got like all straight A's.
Hello, Satya. Welcome to IITalks. Pleasure having you with us.
Hi, RC. How are you? Good to,
Doing good.
good to
Thank
be.
you. Thank you very much. You are a professor of aerospace engineering at IIT Madras,
Mm-hmm.
but you are more famous. Large number of startups that you have in Hyperloop, in 3D rockets, and of course in air taxis. By the way, do you have any new startup this week?
No, it doesn't work like that. Right.
To start off, Satya, we are all keen to know your life's journey from the time you were born to IITM, of course. What's your life's journey in a minute? Because we have lots of questions to follow.
Yeah, I think the early life is fairly straightforward. I grew up in Chennai, maybe in two different parts. One is the Mandavali area, the other one is the Triplicane area. But I went to school in St. John's, Mandavali, for a very long time, from second to 12th. Then I was in Vivekananda College for about a year before I got into IIT. And I was in IIT Madras for my BTech from 87 to 91. And then I went to Georgia Tech for my master's and PhD. Got them in 1992 and 1995, respectively. And was a postdoc for a couple of years. So came back to teaching at IIT Madras in 1997. And was a visiting faculty there for about less than a year. And in June of 1998, I became an assistant professor. 2003 was associate professor. 2009 was full professor. And then I got an opportunity to establish the world's largest combustion research center. And when that was getting done and established and doing very well, is when I got to start my startup journey.
That was about 7 years back when you started all these startups.
7 years, yeah, I would say, yeah, 6 or 7 years, somewhere between 6, 7 to 5 years back.
Your IIT days, what are your fond memories? You guys must have done a lot of mischievous things, fun things, maybe a few wicked things as well. By the way, what was your nickname at IITM?
So I earned my nickname right from day one at IIT Madras. One of the freshies actually gave me a nickname that is very unusual. So I've been called Mama for a very long time, since the time I stepped into IIT Madras.
Mama.
Yeah, lots of people call me Mama even now. So it's one of those nice nicknames to carry.
Definitely very easy to remember. Yeah.
Right.
What was your hostel? Which hostel were you in?
I was in
IITM?
Alaknanda.
Alaknanda. Interesting. So back to your memories, fond memories from IITM. Anything that you recall?
Yeah, we were a very small class of about 14 people in the end. We started as about 19 people, and then multiple exits, and then we were settled at about 14 for the rest of the program. And we were a very tight-knit group of people, except for maybe 2 or 3. And we were all a bunch of nerds. And in hindsight, we were very interested in aerospace engineering. We always used to talk about aerospace, going to chai at Tarams and all of that. We used to actually mimic our professors. So that means like we were so addicted to them. And we used to actually do some experiments in the hostel. We had this very late night discussion about how a fan would turn if you were to make it a wind turbine. Will it actually turn in the same direction or opposite direction? We were exhausted drawing all those velocity triangles, and then we said, let's actually experiment with it by carrying a fan and running along the corridor. and
So you were a nerdish group.
very nerdish group. Yeah.
Now you were today a faculty in the same classroom where you were a student 3 decades back. How do the vibes differ?
I mean, that makes me look very old, but there is nothing much I don't know. Times have changed, definitely. So when I got back to IIT Madras, I was one of those people who wanted to become a faculty member at IIT Madras, even when I was doing my PhD. In fact, I did my PhD because IIT Madras needed a PhD to take a faculty member in. I did my postdoc because IIT Madras needed a postdoc experience and all that stuff. I was kind of like trying to fit what it takes to become a faculty member. I used to actually gather lots of videos to show the students. I used to on fluid mechanics and all of that stuff, and I used to read up on biographies of great scientists that have impacted aerospace engineering, as well as even things like quantum mechanics and all that stuff. I used to sketch their portraits.
So do you see similar nerdish tendencies, the research tendencies in the students today that you teach?
I don't know. I mean, you have to actually ask my teachers of then if they actually saw those tendencies in us, because the classroom is actually a very limited.
I see. So they may still be doing it outside the classroom.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work that's happening outside the classroom even today. In fact, a lot more than what we used to do. So today's students actually have the C5 to dirty their hands with having to do a hyperloop or a Raftar car. They're actually making an electric race car and all that stuff. It's actually top of the world work that they do.
Yeah, so they have more opportunities and incentives to be nerds and geeks.
Yeah, I mean, you have to actually give them credit. You're sounding like as if they have the opportunities, though they're doing it, but they probably created the opportunities themselves too. So you need to which we probably did not do as much.
Interesting. You see, all your work, research, the NCCRD that you spoke about, one of the largest research facilities for combustion, your startups, all these are deep tech. Deep tech brings with it deep uncertainties, deep and long time to market. How do you balance this nature of deep tech with your aspiration as a founder to see these research to the market fastest? How do you balance this conflict?
Right. So when you do research, there are again two kinds of research that you do. One is what we call as blue sky research, things about the science of science that pertains to aerospace engineering. Maybe it's fluid mechanics or it's relates to engines or whatever it is. But then you also actually do applied research, and that could be for an organization like a ISRO or a DRDO or a GE or any of those industry folks, which would be a lot more applied. That means that we are looking for an outcome within a short period of time and get data that's quantitative and all that stuff. Even in the blue sky research, we have a working hypothesis chasing a particular kind of result. And of course, we need to be prepared for the result being the opposite. But we have a hypothesis on what the result is going to be like, and then we try to quantify that. That's what I mean. All of engineering research in that sense is very applied. Right? That it's not like pure research. When it comes to startups, it's actually more about technology building rather than research as such. It's less R&D and more like D&D, design and development. So there are design principles have actually become very mature these days with a lot of commercial software that's available, that's well validated. We can depend on them to predict what the performance will be with the design that you develop. You can optimize it very well. before you go cut metal, or in our case, we lay a carbon fiber, make the plane or the rocket or any of those and fly them to check what the performance would be. And there are multiple ways by which we can check these things with lots of ground tests for component level, subsystem level, and all that stuff, and then do the integrated tests and then go for flights finally. So there are multiple checkpoints for you to validate your way all the way.
So essentially, what I take from you, Satya, is you guys are indeed lucky in some ways because of the way the technology ecosystem is today, that you are able to see some tangible benefits even from blue sky research at decent intervals.
Yeah, I think there is a huge amount of maturity in how research and development is done, how technology development is done, how design and development is done. So we can actually de-risk, whatever we are doing as we go along. We don't have to actually have like a huge amount of uncertainty about what's going to pan out over a 5 to 7 years time frame. Of course, you still need patient capital to actually have put in the money and waited for that period to start earning money back. That is still there, but the kind of uncertainty about it is not there as much, and you can
What I
also it's a bit more frugally when compared to what it used to be.
what are your future plans and what kind of collaborations, connections are you looking for in this context?
I mean, I think I'm taking life as it comes. So never really expected 5, 6 years back that I will actually be so deep into the startups that I'm in. And each of the startups that we are part of actually has great plans for the future, be it an Agnikul or a ePlane. We are in for the long term. We are essentially trying to set up legacy companies. We'll make larger and larger rockets, bigger and bigger planes, and so on. That's. I mean, I think if we were to just continue to do this more and more and bigger over time as it presents itself, as we are able to expand ourselves, I think that would be a fairly glorious end to my career. So you don't have to plan much more than what's going on.
You have faculty work, you have research, and you have NCCRD, so many things in a day. Has it ever crossed your mind that you might be actually a bit crazy?
I don't know. I mean, if I come across as crazy to other people, I'm not responsible for it. I mean, I don't think I've hurt anybody being crazy so far. Yeah, but I think it's everybody gets only 24 hours a day, 168 hours a week. And I'm not an exception. So we have to figure out how to manage the time. Yeah.
Interesting, because I remember seeing an Elon Musk video. He is doing so many things as well. And he actually says in the video that his mind works very differently. And in fact, he says for many people, it might be very uncomfortable to think and work the way he does. So I just thought I would ask you about it.
I mean, I don't want to boast that I'm actually any different. I mean, I think time will tell if I mean, I guess if you're Elon Musk, you can claim yourself to be crazy, but if you're not, then you better be, better act normal, is what I would think.
Outside of serious work, what are your hobbies?
I mean, I used to play the violin. I used to be able to sketch and paint when I was a kid. I used to carry that on all the way till my PhD times. Then I picked up a lot of listening to music and reading. I used to read a lot until recently, but in the last few years, the kind of time that I got to read was only when I was in the toilet, and that would I would be able to clock about 2 pages a day. But even that, I'm actually getting a bit boring. I feel like I am actually more interested in sleeping these days when compared to anything else. So
I guess that's
if
a
you get a
smart thing
chance,
to do.
yeah. So I mean, I just figured that sleeping is something that I can do by myself and I can enjoy.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. Excellent. Excellent. Satya, you are a real rocket scientist. You
Okay?
see, when I say rocket scientist, when
I'm not going to say no.
yeah, sorry, was that?
I'm not going to say no.
When we say rocket scientists, we usually refer to people who want to do high tech things like rocket science, of course, but also AI, then biotech, nanotech, all those high tech things. What are your recommendations, tips for these youngsters today who want to do such high tech things like what you're doing? What do you think they should do right now?
Oh, I think there's just plenty of stuff that's happening around. So you have to pick up what fancies your heart, and just follow that. Um, so many times, at least when we were kids, we used to think that, if you choose a particular line of career, you're choosing it when you're actually a teenager and you're kind of getting stuck for life with it and so on. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I think a lot of people actually change their careers many times over. So all of that stuff is possible. Just have to make sure that your parents are happy with your livelihood, right? So just make sure that you're able to actually make a living. But outside of that, I think it's important for you to just follow your heart, and it's possible to follow your heart in multiple ways. So I think the one important thing in my life, if I can actually try to highlight, is whatever I have done, I've actually excelled in it. So I used to be a branch topper. I got like all straight A's and finished my PhD in 4 years flat after my bachelor's. I built the world's largest combustion research center. We have some fairly good startups going that I think, with all humility, we could be proud about.
So
I think,
essentially, what you're saying is your recommendation is whatever you guys are doing, do it with all your heart, excel at it, and then the world of opportunities will open up. What you're going to do 5 years later could be very different from what you're doing today, but it's important that you excel in what you're doing right now.
well, I'm saying a little bit more than that. It's easy for you to actually try something and then say, this is not what I want, and I want to give up and move on. But there is also some kind of like a finish line to each of those, right? You should be able to say, I've taken this up. I want to actually finish this creditably. I want to score the most excellent, what do you call, outcomes, so that I can actually earn credibility about what I'm doing before you now decide to change from there, right? So you need to develop your own metrics, draw a line and say, I have to actually reach these metrics.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time at IITalks, and I'm sure that millions of youngsters are going to be inspired by the kind of stuff you're doing today. Thank you
Hopefully,
once again. All the best.
hopefully. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, Narsi.